and either, don't make a complete joke out of some of the things that are just completely asinine. Particularly for a smaller company, you can do things like signature standards, which, are the bane of many people's existence, easily, since it's just the two of us talking to each other, or, talking to some of the other people that we work with. And that's a benefit of being small, is you can get everyone to change quickly, and it's not, sending out TPS reports.
Yeah.
That movie, by the way, is never used in a slide. Sorry.
It's it's something like, even if you go and work, if you've worked for a large corporation, and you know that they're very paranoid about how they appear, and that's because they appear. But think of how the impression comes. You never think they're small. You always know they're big, and you always know this is something. If I work with them, I know what I'm going to get, for better or worse. But if you're coming with a very consistent branding, they know what they're going to get from you. It helps encourage that kind of trust that you need, especially with the kind of business we're talking about here.
So the follow-up, and what's directly on the slide behind me, is that, but the inside doesn't matter. And again, this ties into why I feel that there's benefits to exploring open source solutions, support, hosting, value-added, things like that, is that you can do lots of great things, but if you don't bring in clients or don't proactively seek clients, it doesn't matter. And if you don't let the rest of the world know what you're doing, it doesn't matter. I could have the most powerful piece of software ever made sitting in my computer, but unless I put out a press release about it, no one will ever know. Just putting it on your website isn't enough. You have to proactively engage members of the press, members of the media, and prospective clients to get it out there, and start snowballing.
More importantly, you're just getting a message to your client base. Like, the client base, however you get it out, it's not going to be there's not a standard way to get things out sometimes, but you need to do something with the intent of someone has to see it and know who did it. Otherwise, you didn't do it.
And I'm going to stress again the press connection, because it's something big on my mind. Anytime you do something, send out a press release. Maybe it's not the press release where you call up the reporters and nag them about getting a story in about it, but just send out the press release, make them start to be aware that you are doing big things in this area with people who maybe are press-worthy.
It should be, or in the industry field you're going into, get it out there, get it out to people, organizations that will care about it. Like, if you're going into gardening, you'd send it to the Gardeners Association.
Press releases are not just for press. Send them to other,
just get it to the people that might want to hire you. Anyone. Worst they do is ignore it.
Yeah. Or shred it, or, pick you up on your grammatical mistakes and spelling errors, and find a good copy editor. Yeah. I highly urge that. Yeah,
get a good copy editor, or just, take your time on that. One spelling mistake will it just looks terrible. I mean, no matter how smart you are, when you misspell a simple word, people think you're dumb.
Are we moving on?
That being said, there better not be any spelling errors up there.
I'm sure there are. It's the same movie as before, so the same number of people probably still know it.
We did that on purpose. It was the spelling joke leads right into that.
Good. I made the slides. My spelling's atrocious. Sorry.
And this would come back to,
Man, you screwed us over good, Nick. I'm just going to blame him for everything from now on. All good.
So we talked about a company, about your company branding. Now we need to talk about personal branding, how you deal with clients and how you look. It's superficial. It seems dumb, but it matters, and it matters a lot. Which it's. I mean, we intentionally know it's dumb. We know it's not something we really enjoy doing.
It's why we put a picture of a mass murderer up behind us. So I had a problem with my laptop earlier in the week, and the Dell service representative came out and amazingly replaced the entire motherboard in 20 minutes. I was fairly happy, actually. But I think he was a pretty good example of some things that the tech community is weak on. He was wearing, professional office attire. I'll give him that. Blue shirt, tie, and everything was fine. Then he was wearing, a circuit board tie. If you're talking to the CEO or CIO or chief financial officer of an organization, don't wear a circuit board tie or tie that has binary on it, or, try to avoid a penguin too. Any other suggestions? Oh, ties that say sex except that it's hidden into the pattern in some way because they'll notice it. Joke ties are not appropriate for business meetings where you're trying to sell people something. And
it depends on the environment who you're selling to. Sometimes we don't want to go into an entire fashion clinic here. You don't necessarily need to. You have to know.
But there are do's and don'ts to wearing a bold striped tie.
So it depends on the industry in terms of the meeting. Typically, we don't really wear ties that much, but we do have. It's always important to have a suit in case, in case of where you need to be, what you need to be doing, where you're going to be meeting people, because you really only get how many chances for somebody to think you're smart, and unfortunately, how you dress relates a lot to how smart people think you are.
Remember that when you're selling, essentially every meeting that you have with someone is a job interview. Think about how you dress when you go to a job interview, and you'll probably be okay. It's unfortunate, probably, that people don't evaluate based on merit more, but that's why we're spending time talking about branding and personal attire, and I'm not going to mention hygiene, but hopefully you all shower on a regular basis. But
if you're seeing a client look good, that's just all it comes down to. No matter what, don't ever be like, I've seen him before, I'll wear sweatpants. Just you need to look the part, because you need to act like I am a CEO. I am the vice. I'm the president. I'm the vice president of this company. If you don't act and talk like that and be that, they're not going to think you are. They're going to think, oh, this is a joke. He's not taking it seriously. I'm not going to take it seriously, or she's not taking it seriously. We talked a little bit about personal dress, and I know it's something we focus on a lot because we really think it's important. But there's also demeanor, how you handle yourself, and how you act in terms of a meeting. For example, there are jokes that we've made today we would never make in a meeting. There may be the best joke. It depends on the level of the meeting, but you have to act like what you're doing, and you can't argue with them. Go, oh no, that's stupid. You don't do that to a client. You don't do anything silly like that.
Being a good communicator, again, is one of the more important things. Remember, you don't have IP that you can sell them. You don't have any particular product that you can push besides, yourself. You want to be able to work with everyone. And probably you're starting your own business to get away from an asshole boss or something like that, but you're going to have asshole clients. Well, unfortunately now they're your clients, so you want to avoid pissing them off, because who knows who their friends are. Who knows how much more business you can get if they like you at the end of the day, even if you don't like them.
One of the first internal policies we set was never argue.
We joke about internal policies, but they're sort of legitimate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There are ways you can. If I had a client that was saying, a client that said I didn't like that would possibly cost me business by keeping them. A few things I would deal with. You would not always deal with them in a positive manner. There are ways to deal with negative situations in a positive, constructive manner, or at least a neutral, not "you're stupid," which is tough because that's generally the first instinct. The first instinct is go for it, just make fun of them, or go at them, and it does no good, because in an argument, even if you win, you prove your point, you lost. That person's not going to like you. They're not going to be happy, and that's the person you've got to have as your customer. But for that situation, what you would do is there's a bunch of there's some creative ways that you could do it, and one would be to recommend them to someone else. deal with a professional manner to go, I think your needs would be best served by my competitor.
I'm afraid right now we have too much work on our plate and some major deadlines coming up. You're going to have to look elsewhere.
Or I'd happily recommend them. Recommend someone for you, if that's the case. If that's the case, and there should never really be that kind of case where someone is so unhappy or terrible or.
Because hopefully you're providing a service that they actually want. Also.
Yeah, I mean, a situation like that would be rare. If you work with them, you find a way. If they whatever they want, you find a way to make them happy. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And it's and like especially when we talked a little about secretary proof. We talked about people that just don't know. You don't know who you're going to be talking to and dealing with. Your primary contact may not be technical at all. They may have their capabilities may be limited. You don't know, so you kind of have to, just all they have is that you're responding and listening to them. So you take your time, making sure you're there, understanding exactly what they're saying. Even if they don't really know, get them to the point where you can determine and kind of tell them, like, how about this? And then so something like that is just, but dealing with them very carefully, making sure they know exactly what you're doing, make sure they understand what you're doing, and they're comfortable with what you're doing.
I mean, it's a hard habit to get into when we're used to arguing about licenses or ridiculous things like that, or why Perl is better than Python or stuff like that. But, come at it from a different approach. Whenever defray arguments before they start, understand what their point of view is, and just keep your eye on the bottom line is they need to walk away from your services happy. Remember, they're your client. The client isn't always right, but you can make them feel like they're always right.
Yeah, and don't and
it sounded really profound, didn't it? I'm so happy.
And don't insult other competitors. Don't set a situation where you have to argue someone. If they say, "I was always trained that this product was the best and nothing," you go, "Yeah, it's pretty good." Then they can't argue anymore. You go, "Yeah, it's good, but look at what I have." You stop their argument. They can no longer argue you. Then you can show them what you actually got there for. There's no point arguing. It's a hard thing to do, and you will have to deliberately train yourself not to.
Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, I think we've taught everyone to look pretty and not make fun of people.
Yeah, and make deals with the devil when you have to.
Right.
Anyone in this movie? You were part of Film Society, weren't you? So, okay, good.
It's Kevin Spacey there. That's Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin's crotch. Am I ringing any bells? No. We've really covered everything that we were planning to talk about on this slide.
Well, not. No,
okay, then you can start talking.
We talked about all the marketing. We haven't talked about how you go out and get clients 2 through 5 through 6 through so on and so on. We've gotten the point. Okay, they've seen you. They see this person is professional. This person is good. I trust this person to take care of whatever it is I need them to do. Okay, how do you? We talked a little bit before. We mentioned for your first one, you may have to take a little bit. You may have to take it a little bit lower. You may have to do some sort of test. You have to do some sort of test implementation. Once you get that, you need to go out. You need to go out aggressively. You need to meet people. You need to follow up on any kind of lead. This is basically telling you if there was a chance that you met someone that you might get business from, you had better follow up with them and follow up with them. If they write you an email or they call you, you get back within 24 hours. You get back right away. You have to every time. You can't. I mean, that's where a lot of this destruction of your life comes in, because I only have X amount of time and I have to hustle. I have to, no matter what I'm doing, I have to stop and take a call anywhere at any time whenever they call me.
We now have a third book for those of you who are counting.
We can pretty much, I think the next one is going to be where we really, if anyone gets it, they get a book automatically.
Yeah. The other things is, so that's how, once you've met the person and you work on developing a relationship, how do you find the people to begin with?
when you find people to begin with, a lot of times it's going to be something you personally know or have an idea. If you're thinking about a business, you've thought about your first places. I don't think anyone would go into it, or it wouldn't be smart